Hi, welcome to everyone to the second listening event. If you want to watch the first listening event, it's on the website. My name's Edward Fraser. We've got several other people here, and they can introduce themselves when they speak. We've just started off with some questions before we started recording, and one of the issues that was brought up was about the sort of culture, the feeling that you can get if you were just to read the Facebook page. There can be some negative comments. There has been some negativity on the Facebook pages, and the other sort of feeling that some people get is that the residents association is sort of dominated by the old guard, and I've had this said before, that there's a bit of a divide between the old and the new residents and what have you, and that can be quite off-putting to people. So I hope I've summarized that fairly well. It's it probably, when you come new into this community, it wouldn't surprise me if people feel that there's a close-knit community there and there's a lot going on, and it probably takes time to feel integrated. And I know the RA has always tried to counterbalance that with the things we do, especially the events that we do. One of our most popular events was always the Christmas event, where we had mulled wine and mince pies, and it's like, just come and meet us, come and join in, without any other agenda. So there was no fundraising, no charging for anything. It's just, yeah, come and see us and enjoy Christmas and meet new people. And that always used to get really positive feedback. So that's one of the things. But instead of me trying to answer that, I wonder if anyone else would like to have a go at addressing that, or add to the worry, if you know, or reinforce what was being said there. Perhaps I'll ask Richard, perhaps. Have you got anything to say about that, Richard?
I thought you'd do that. I was looking at something right. Historically, I know there's always people are worried about the people up here for a long period of time. The RA's been formed now for a number of years, since before this development actually started. What we tried to do back in the day when I was sat on the RA was try and be all inclusive, not to try and do an us and them environment, and where we felt that environment was building, was trying to do what we could do to not stop, it's the wrong word, but try and cease that sort of perception. It's a case of everyone that lives up here is part of the same community. It's not a new community. It's a existing community which is developing into a larger community. So what we're trying to do is stop that us and them, stop this old people, new people. It's, at the end of the day, we all live at Hayford Park. We all live within the Hayford Park boundary line and the Hayford Park parish line, which is why we're also including the likes of Hayford Lees, which have been overlooked in recent years. So yeah, I know where some perception's coming from, and the team in the background, be the RA and the working group, we are trying to encourage the future group to be an all-inclusive and to try and not portray that, well, if you weren't here before such date, then you don't have such a say. Everyone has an equal say. I think that just about covered it.
One of the other things is we're trying to build in a concept of fair representation into the Constitution. which will be voted for in the EGM, so that as best we can get a balance between people who come from different sections of the community. So we don't have a lot of diversity in the classic sense, but there's clearly issues for people that live in the bungalows that don't affect people that live in Dorchester new builds, for example. So having a balance between those different sections, and Hayford Lees needs some representation. We've drafted some clauses for the Constitution to try and guide what the new committee should look like in terms of representation, which hopefully will help. But I guess the question is, what is it that the new committee needs to do to do better on that front? Because we've heard that tonight, but it's not surprising to hear that is someone's impression, because it would be a lot of people's impression, and getting away from that, the negative comments or the feeling that there's discord between different factions stuff, I think is really important, because it's really off-putting for a lot of people. So we have a completely blank sheet. So perhaps some of the others can talk about what they think the committee should do differently or better. Should we go around some more people then to speak? Is anyone able wanting to speak next? Raise your virtual hand. Got any yellow hands? Or should I pick on someone? Just going around in alphabetical order. So we've got Timothy's iPad. Would you like to speak?
Question. I heard you mention that Hayford Lees was going to be part of this. Has the Constitution been changed?
No. So at the EGM,
yeah,
we've got a number of Constitution changes that we want the members to vote on, and they will take immediate effect. So that's something like, so there is a clause there that clarifies the whole thing about Hayford Lees, and it's up to the members present to agree or disagree with that. And so there's simple voting, and Richard's been working with us to make sure that the voting on the day is done well and unambiguously as well, so that if we have the majority of the members present at the EGM wanting that change, it will come into force, and if they don't, it won't. But in terms of, so there'll be a number of Constitution changes, and that's one of them, is to clarify. It's always been a bit of a grey area before, so it just needed clarification.
Well, the reason I ask is the original intent of the Residents Association was to represent the residents to the landlord, and Hayford Lees does not report to the landlord, and the landlord doesn't have any, the landlord being Dorchester doesn't have any influence on Hayford Lees' landlord. So doesn't that belong to the parish, and is in the parish council, versus the Residents Association, which was solely developed for representing the views of the residents to the landlord?
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why we wanted to clarify that was, first of all, to give people a vote. I don't have a strong view either way, but what was coming through quite loudly to us was that Hayford Lees wanted to be part of it. So I think it's a strong argument against it as well, because the relationship with the tenants and the landlord is absolutely paramount, especially at the moment. But not just the tenants, the homeowners and the landlord, to which they pay maintenance fees and what have you. I think articulates the argument against it, and there's arguments for it and people that want it, you know. And that's really what we were trying to do, is to include all of those points of view, and ones like that, to put it, you know, any constitution change should be voted on by the members, not the committee, the members, you know, so all of the people that are there, you know, one vote per household. But it's not about what I personally think, or one person thinks. It's about what was asked for, and then there's a question. And thank you, you've articulated the argument against very well.
Okay.
And anyone else?
I don't know where we would stand legally, because the landlord at Hayford Lees there's no binding obligation to take anything that we say, where there is with the landlord for Dorchester. And
Yes.
there's a legal precedence that he has to have a resident association because he's trying to do something, but not with Hayford Lees. That's the question I'm asking is, are we moving away from the original intent of the Hayford Park Residents Association and now trying to represent the parish, or are we trying to represent the residents?
I can't answer that. The only other thing I'd like to add in is, in the fair representation bit that we were going to propose, there was going to be a maximum of 2 people on the committee from Hayford Lees, so it wouldn't dominate.
May I say something?
Yeah.
It's really interesting what Tim just said, because it's sort of, something's just clicked. That if that is the perception of the purpose of the Residents Association, which I can completely get, but I hadn't understood that that was its sole purpose. And maybe that's where some difficulties come, because I mean, I'm really grateful for all the Residents Association does, and it seems to me to do so many things. It's my perception is that it was a community association, and you know, things like that Christmas event that you mentioned, Edward, I've been to one of them and it was fabulous, or 2 of them even, you know, they've been fabulous. And it's, you know, all this clearing up of litter and speed watching and blah blah blah, and so that's where, because I feel so grateful for everything that the RA does, I felt, oh, I ought to be a bit more involved or give a bit more support. But when I did come to a couple of meetings initially, the meetings were preoccupied with issues to do with housing, which now makes sense from what Tim has said. And so I was thinking, I actually don't know what the RA is for, now that we also have a parish council. So it must be incredibly hard to try and carry these different, you know, what was one set up for one thing has now evolved into a community group, and you can't do it all, I guess.
Sarah has her hand up. Sarah, do you want to speak?
So I wanted to say, I believe even in the original constitution for the RA, it was about more than just being a representative to the landlord, and about creating a community in the area. And that's still on the constitution now, as to what the purposes of the organisation are. So I don't think it is just about the tenant and landlord relationship. And I think maybe that, I agree, it does need to perhaps be helped on that. But I think the fair representation of getting more than just the tenants involved will massively help with that as well.
I mean, they're quite distinct purposes, aren't they? And obviously there's overlap, but one group is in a fight, you know, is a kind of a rights group, and another group is wanting to evolve and construct and develop and bring people together, and that's quite different. So what, I mean, I'd like to know the perspective of the RA, how people are you finding it? I don't even know who's on it these days, but or on it, but what's it like being on the committee?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Well, it's we've actually struggled to form a committee in recent years, you know. So the committee of 2020, from April 2020 onwards, or February 2020 onwards, was just 7 people. And what happens when you have small committees is that it will follow the agenda of, you know, 1 or 2 dominant personalities, and that's what, how could it not, you know, especially when you've got brilliant people doing brilliant things, you know, it will follow down that course, you know. It doesn't have that representation and diversity that we're wanting for a completely new committee. So it meanders, and things come up as well. When I joined the committee in 2012, we all felt very much under threat, you know, in the tenant side, because the developers wanted to refurbish the bungalows and then sell them. And some tenants were actually moved out, you know, against their will. And it was very distressing for a lot of people. And that was why I joined, you know. Since then, you know, it's developed in the ways you're saying, and then it's sort of moved around. So, and then the parish councils come along in recent years to make things even more complex, and things get very complex. Then you've got COVID, and you've got food banks being set up and grants being applied for and stuff like that. Life gets terribly complicated, and unfortunately what happens in that circumstance with a small committee is that 1 or 2 or 3 people end up with an incredible burden, and it's and this is where you get negativity coming through as well, because, you know, if the wider community in the Facebook pages start not liking a particular thing that one person's doing, it becomes personal, you know, and that is not good. That's not what a committee should be like. It should be more, you know, we need more clarity. If you only have 6 or 7 people, then those 6 or 7 people have to choose what they're going to do. They cannot do it all. My idea of utopia is having a large committee with lots of different vested interests and lots of different streams running, you know, benefiting from each other. That's my ideal. I'm not sure if we'll achieve it, because I'm not sure if we'll have that many people coming forward to want to be on the committee, but it desperately needs, you know, people to come forwards and help shape it. You know, we have a completely blank sheet. There's people with their hands up. Can I go to, I don't know who was first, so I've got a 50-50% chance of offending 2 people. But can I choose Dauncey to speak next?
Yeah, I just want to completely concur with everything that you've said. Now, I'm one of the kind of older resident, been here since 13 years and whatever, and understand the full purpose of what the Residents Association was originally set up for. As being a tenant, it was horrific the way that we were being treated and things like that, and been one of the fortunate people who've been able to go to a new property. But even as an older resident in a new property, I feel pushed out from the Residents Association completely. I've also, in the past, I'd say 5 years, been to one Residents Association meeting because, like you say about these, flamboyant characters, you know, it only takes 2-3 people to rule the whole room and nobody else gets a say. And, you know, and I think that's what a lot of the residents find up here, that there are these very dominant characters within the community who actually overshy people who are not necessarily as loud or, you know, characterful as the other people on the board, you know, or within the community. You know, we're not constantly on the Facebook page or bashing people. You know, we're in a massive cancel culture at the moment, and the Facebook page is just pure cancel culture, which is horrible to see. You know, and you know, myself and my husband, we're both, you know, really invested in the community, you know, but we don't feel, you know, we don't see where we have a voice or a place within the residents association, because we are that kind of more quiet and more reserved family. You know, we're not right in the depths of it, but we would like to be, you know, and I'd like to see, you know, the residents association engage more with the people who, you know, are actually willing to help out. We're just not going to be, you know, the first person on a Facebook group going, yes, I'm going to do it, or necessarily at every single meeting. But if somebody asked us, we'd be there in a heartbeat. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, I don't know everybody in my street anymore. I used to know everybody when I lived on Carswell Circle and Harris Road and Cheshire Drive, and you know everybody, but I don't know everybody around here anymore. And you know, nobody necessarily knows me or my husband, because we are very reserved and we are a very kind of, you know, keep ourselves to ourselves, you know. So I completely agree with, you know, this whole them and us and what it was originally set up for, you know, but things change. You know, it's been a long time since Dorchester came in, you know, originally when NOC sold off the land, and, you know, we've moved on. Lots of houses have been built. Lots of prime ministers have been in. Members of the royal family have died. Do you know, it's things have moved on. And I think we need to move on with the times as well.
Thank you. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, you did.
The next person with their hand up is Lynn.
So my thing is just that it's like, has already been said, is that the RA has changed a lot over the years because the needs of the community have changed. Certainly when we moved in, it was a case that actually it was residents because there wasn't the development there. So the needs were very different. And actually it was extremely difficult to get enough numbers to be able to get committees, to the point that people were on the end of a phone, or people were on the doorsteps of people's houses to get enough people to get the AGM going for the group to be able to keep it going. And the thing is that there's been an awful lot of, there have been a number of people that have been on the committee for a long time and have done a lot of really good work. But the thing is that things have changed over the years, and actually it's now looking, everyone's in the community, and the fact is that everyone has needs, and it's being able to hear what those needs are, and it's being able to address them. Now, I think that one of the ways of being able to do it is by making it more accessible. Whereas in the last year, we've been doing, you know, as a community, well, in workplaces and everything, we've all become a lot more Zoom orientated because of COVID. Well, actually, the Residents Association was always a case of, it was, you know, once a month meetings. And certainly I would have got involved many years back, you know, if I could, but where Edward was on the committee and I'd got children, it wasn't accessible for me. Whereas actually I think that's a way where it can easily become much more accessible. So, you know, people can join a lot easier. I think there's a lot of people that have got a lot of skills within the community as well. And I think that actually sometimes if people are more aware of what the community needs, then they may be more prepared to sort of put the hand up and say, actually, do you know what, I might be able to help with that. But if we don't know what the needs are, and people aren't able to, don't feel that they can go along to meetings, that they feel that they're involved in it, then actually there's potentially a lot of help that we could all have and give that actually we're not accessing, which again is a real shame, because actually we've all got things that we can offer. I think accessibility has got to be a big thing for a lot of people up here, because certainly a lot of proportion of the community have got young children as well, and that makes no difference whether you're in a home you own or a home that you rent. We're all in the community, and it depends what you want from it as well.
Thank you. No one else got their hand up, so I wonder if I could ask Sarah to talk about some of those points. Because Sarah, you've joined the working group, and you've sort of been involved with the committee, not on the committee. Later on, so you're one of the fairly new people to the community. So it'd be great to hear your views.
I am definitely one of the newer residents around here, and we made a decision before we moved here that we were going to make an effort to be involved in it. But I will admit that we came to 1 or 2 resident association meetings when we first came here, and honestly we sat at the back of the room. There was no real chance of interaction, and then we decided not to bother again. And now we have a toddler, and it made it almost impossible to attend the meetings. Since the pandemic has forced it onto Zoom, it's meant that I can actually attend them, which has been wonderful, because at the moment I'm trying to put my toddler to bed, for example. But the switching to online options has massively increased the availability, and it's hard to get involved. I agree with the comments that it can be really difficult if you're not a very outgoing person. Wait a minute, darling. To be involved with what's going on. It's hard to volunteer and to find where you can help. However, there are definitely those around who are willing and able. It's just the difficulty of getting out and contacting them. If we can make the meetings more accessible to more people, I think you'll have more people who will do what I did at the beginning, which is just dial in and sit in the background, listen to what's going on, and then start stepping up to help with the things that I mentioned that need help as they realise that they can. I'm going to stop there.
Thank you, Sarah. It's coming through really clear about making it all more accessible. And the question is, how do we help people that haven't got the outgoing personality and what have you to feel really part of it? I agree with, in the physical sense, having people at a table and then the rest of them sitting at the back of the room. It just in a physical sense, it's probably not a good thing. So all those things need to be thought of. But I think you're going back to the earlier point that came up before we started recording. I think everyone just needs, everyone that gets involved in the new committee needs to be quite conscious of that. And we need to be kind, we need to be inclusive. And that means listening as well. Sometimes in committee meetings, I will listen to someone talking about something that I passionately disagree with, and it's, we all have to learn that we have to listen to that and see the other side before we then speak about, perhaps what we believe in, and be afforded the same respect. Everyone's aware that we had an AGM this year where all those pieces of respect weren't there, for various reasons, and I played a part in that, and I'm not proud of that. And that's partly why I'm really keen. And I'm just me. I'm just on the working group, and I've been on the residents' association, so I'm not trying to put myself in the leadership position here at all. Far from it. We just want the opposite of that. We want respect. We want people to feel included, and that including the people from the old committee that might feel they've been pushed out or whatever. You know, we need everyone, and we need this new culture of everyone counts. You know, so that's my perspective. You know, and it really is a blank sheet. The chair, the vice chair, all the positions, secretary, treasurer, and committee members, all of those positions are completely open for people to apply to. This isn't a case of one personality gets replaced with another, and so that cycle continues. We're breaking that cycle. That's where I'm coming from personally. It's time for someone else to speak. Timothy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it seems to me that we need to address this through, we have a constitution which tells us exactly how we do something. What we don't and never had is what I used to call a mission statement, which is telling us why we're doing something. And it seems to me that we've evolved from years ago where we were being just run roughshod over by the developer. Now there's enough people here who have voice that the developers actually having to listen to the wider community. And therefore, we always thought that we were going to lose part of our responsibilities as the committee when the parish council stood up. And in many ways we have, because they're responsible for the things like the school crossing, the roads, and all the stuff that we brought up, but we didn't have any real authority over. So if we developed a good, robust mission statement that talks about the inclusivity of everything and what this is actually about, because we are starting to go a lot less from the resident association, but more into the development side, because that was the whole title that's inside of that constitution really does state what we're here for. Once we do that, I think we will find ourselves then including people like Hayford Lees, because then it's not just representing to Dorchester. We don't really ever represent the Bovis because they're the developer, but they're not like Dorchester. They're not the ones who control the financial side of fixing things. But it would allow then the Residents Association to be a wider scope, which would include Hayford Lees, versus currently, which is what the Constitution's been developed about, was it led up to the development of the committees and the current structure for primarily representation, but also community development. Most of our grants have come because we are involved in community development, but we don't really ever have a focus that we can apply it to. In other words, we don't have a mission statement. And that's me.
Thanks. So Jane's got her hand up.
Yeah, I'm glad you came back to that, Tim, because I'm a bit stuck on that point as well of the purpose of the group. And it's really helped me understand the difficulty I had at the meetings that I came to, that I mean, I am repeating myself, but I was expecting one thing and experienced something else, which was mainly people feeling very aggrieved and very angry. And with good reason. And so I felt completely that I had no right to speak or to take part, because I wasn't feeling angry or aggrieved. And yet, you know, as I say, there needs to be that pressure group. I wonder if they can coexist, or whether there are two very separate you know, groups here. One is, because the language, you see, and I find that's also on the Facebook page, there's a lot of Dorchester bashing. It's almost a reflex. And I'm sorry to say this, but I have had no problems with Dorchester. And so I find it quite difficult that it's the sort of dominant thing, and I don't feel that I don't want to stand up for them, but it isn't what I'm interested in. But I don't also either want to, you know, undermine those who do need that pressure group, and give every support to it. But it's and that anger and grievances and so on does need a forum, and it does need a voice, and it does need a group, and all the rest. And then we have, as I said before, a community development group, and that is very, very different as far as I can see it. I don't know. So that's all I would say to the committee is, you know, I mean, it's awful when you get into subgroups and this and the other. But yeah, good luck with that one is what I can say.
That's really helpful. Jane, that thing that you were expecting, we need to capture that, yeah? We need to, you know, we need your help to try and capture that for the new committee. And, you know, that thing, that idea you had in your head, I'm expecting this, but I got something else. That thing, that positive thing you were expecting, you know, let's try and capture that. I know it's difficult to put in words, but
well, this has been helpful because I've also heard it from some of the others, you know, feeling the same, and you know, already I don't feel quite so isolated in that.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad to hear that, and you know, you, in a way, all the people that contributed so far have sort of proved why we needed a listening event, and all the other things that we've got going on in the background to try and capture all this. Lynn.
So I totally take your point, Jane, in about there being two different, there are different needs. I think what it is trying to merge people's experiences as well, because now a lot of people that are in, I'm going to say the new builds, only because we've been here before the development, but whether they're personally owned or whether they're you know, part ownership or whether they're housing association, is actually a lot of those people actually came from bungalows as well. So they've got a lot of experiences. A number of those people have got their personal experiences that can help with issues that they've had. Because one thing that the residents, it used to be, they wouldn't take on individual issues. It was as an individual, it was as a group, if I'm right in thinking that. Is that right, Edward?
Indeed.
Yeah, that it wasn't someone to go along with you to if you had any problems. It was as issues that arose as a community-based thing. So so there is a lot that can be gained from that. And again, it's people as they've gone through the different stages with housing associations with different situations as to, and again, as the needs. Also, you've got the physical needs, like, you know, the roads being adopted and traffic signs and, you know, road calming, you know, traffic calming and all that sort of thing as well. That also does come from the Dorchester side. I totally appreciate where you say, you know, you've not had any issues with Dorchester at all. I know that that there's been a lot of voice from the Bovis side, and I do know that they do have their own sort of forum as well to be able to broach those subjects together. So it's, again, I think it's one of those things with moving forward is trying to be able to sort of gel those together, that actually the issues that we all do have that are still voiced by by the committee, instead of sort of branching off into smaller groups sort of so early, to try and be so cohesive, to be able to have a bigger voice, if you like, where it has been over the years, because actually it's taken the committees, a long time over the years to be listened to and to actually have a good rapport. And again, it's working on those relationships and the ties that have all been connected in the past, and that are there now, and just working with that to be able to carry it forward as well.
That's good. Can I just add as well, there have been periods in the past, long periods in the past, where the RA's relationship with Dorchester has been one of incredible positivity, but also with challenge. So we're talking about, Dorchester needs challenge, because a landlord and a tenant's needs are completely different and sometimes opposed. There's always a push and a pull. But most of the time I've been on the committee, most of the time, more than 3/4 of the time I've been on the committee, there's been an air of positivity. The people that have liaised with Dorchester and the parish councils have had incredibly positive relationships with them, while still able to challenge. And I believe strongly in the power of positivity, and I can give concrete evidence for that. So when I came here in 2012, we didn't have a dog park, we didn't have a community garden. The list the list does go on. I'm just short on instant memory, but there's a massive list of stuff that's been started off by the RA, but has required the landlord to actually, participate in, or even give us land and stuff like that. There's an incredible long list of stuff that the RA's achieved, and every single bit that they've achieved has been as a result of collaboration, not with fighting. In fact, I can't think of a single case where we've fought Dorchester and actually got anything positive come out of it. Everything that lasts today comes from people working really hard at being a critical friend of Dorchester, and having that positive. We need to recapture that, because it's unfortunate that it's been through phases where it hasn't been like that. When I first started in 2012, it was a fight, it was a push and a pull, and then it evolved into something better. We had that positivity, and we've had some incredibly good role models in terms of the previous chairs. We need a balance. We need a clean slate and new blood, definitely. But we also need that memory, and to act on that memory as well. So we need our cake and eat it, basically, in that respect. But that's enough of me talking. Can I ask someone else to speak, please? Can I pick on someone? Michelle, would you mind if I pick on you?
I knew you were going to ask me. I'm literally just here to listen, because I haven't had a chance to listen to the first meeting that you had. And after the RA meeting previously, I just wanted to see where it was going, in as far, coming up to the EGM and that kind of thing. I did want to know, I don't know if you've had any applications yet. Are you expecting many? And
I can tell you.
How do we choose if you have plenty?
I'm going to ask Richard to talk about the how do we choose part of that question. But I can tell you, so far we've got 3 people. There are a lot of. We actually had 17 people on the working group, which is incredible. And it was, you know, and they've been extremely effective at helping shape what we want for this EGM and going forward. So, you know, I don't believe that we'll get to the EGM and still only have 3 people. I think people are watching and waiting. And I think a lot of people are sort of terrified at the prospect of entering into a brawl.
Yeah.
So that, you know, and that's partly why we've got these listening events, because I want to, not me, I shouldn't say we, you know, this quite large working group, the message is loud and clear. We have to have the blank slate, and we have to get rid of all the things that might be putting people off getting involved.
I do think it's a
so
good
important.
opportunity if somebody's thinking about it to try it, because like you say, it's a clean slate. There's an opportunity for people from all areas here to get involved and, you know, have their voice heard. I like the idea of Hayford Leeds being involved. I don't know as far as the Dorchester thing, landlord thing, you know, but as far as being a voice and having a say on other things that go on around here, it's definitely, you should be included.
That's great, and thanks for allowing me to force you into the speaking because it's actually a really valuable contribution, and we just need everyone. We don't, you know, none of this should rest on 1 or 2 or 3 people's shoulders.
No,
it
no.
needs all of this, and I'm so glad to have the opportunity to hear the voices that don't normally get heard. I need someone else to speak, because this is a problem. You get one person speaking, and I don't want to dominate. Can someone else speak? Can I pick on Kate, perhaps?
Hi, Edward. I'll drop in on this one.
Thank you, Richard.
Right, Kate's got her hands full at the moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, just to go back on, I'll just cover a couple of bits. For those who haven't had a chance to watch the first listening event, similar type of points have been raised about how the committee should be formed, how they feel some changes should be made, so everyone's got clear definition of what's going on. Definitely, there wasn't quite voiced in the same way, but yes, Tim, know where you're coming from with a mission statement. So again, that's something we can forward to the newly formed committee. So if they've got something to aim towards, it'll be great. There was a conversation because we had a member of the parish council on that listening event. Although we have got an RA and a PC, it's a case of they will be sort of working together because they're covering different aspects of the community. So we didn't go into a great deal of detail, but it has been suggested as soon as the committee has been formed, there is some dialogue between those 2 parties, and there's some clear ground rules defined. So there's no stepping on people's toes, but there's also a lot of collaboration that can be possible. Where else do we go to? Oh yeah, just to cover on voting, because you're worried about that. When we know the nominees, we can put those into what I believe is going to be the easiest way of doing this, should we have a lot of people, is doing a poll, because Zoom has this poll feature. So basically we can ask a question, people can vote on it. It's set up to be anonymous. So your vote for yes or vote for no is just a number. It doesn't have your name logged against it. So as we go through like constitution changes, it's a yes or no, majority wins. As we go through people coming onto the committee, it's a name, a yes or no, majority wins. So it's all fair, going down that aspect. Edward, do you want to jump back and just remind me the other points we just need to tidy up quickly?
I think that's it, isn't it? I mean, there are a few constitution changes in the pipeline, but I don't believe any of them will fundamentally change the constitution. It's just to try and get the fair representation and a few other things to modernise the committee. Timothy's going to speak next.
The question has been raised about the Constitution changes, does everybody have access to the current Constitution? Is it widely distributed so that they can actually see what it was, what it does? And there's not too many people who would know the background behind it. Most of those folks have gone. But the original Constitution was out there for a reason. If we're making those changes, I would hope that we acknowledge the original intent behind that Constitution versus just changing it, because some of those intents are still there and they represent everybody. But if you don't have the original, or you don't have the current Constitution, because I think it has been altered at least once, then it's hard to make decisions on the changes to that Constitution.
Yes, it's on. So the Constitution, the current one, is on the website and always has been. Someone else got their hand up. Dauncey? I know that doesn't fully address that, but Dauncey's got her hand up.
So I love the voting system. I think that was pretty accessible to so many people. My concern though would be when it comes to, Constitution change is fantastic. When it comes to voting on people, I find it, again, with this whole bigger voices, lower personalities and stuff like that, it becomes a personality contest. Is there a way of doing it so, effectively, that each person who is applying is anonymous when it comes to the voting, and they are they effectively a mission statement of why they want to join, what they're bringing to the table and things like that. So actually getting the right people for the jobs rather than the names for the job, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how would we do that? Would we say, for example, someone wanted to do that, but they didn't particularly want to stand there and,
I don't think you have to stand. If at the end of the day, if it's being done on Zoom, slides can be done to produce, with written word, and whoever is leading the meeting can speak those words for people who are not able to read properly or things like that. I think just so it takes away the personality of the person who's doing it and actually shows what skills they're bringing to the table. There might be people, who are extremely shy and, and nobody knows them in the community. They may have just joined last week and, they're going up against, it's like I'm going up against somebody who's been here for 20 years, but actually that's somebody who's only been here a week, may be able to bring a lot more to the table than somebody who's been here 20 years, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Two people have got their hands up. Can I start with Sarah?
I just want to say maybe we could put the statement, a very brief statement from each person who wishes to apply, saying why they want to apply on the website, because I think they put their contact details on the form. So it would be possible to contact them and ask them to put that forward.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. And Timothy had his hand up.
Oh, thank you. In the past, and I will reference that because it's been a problem before. We've never had a problem about not having too many people. We've had the problem of not having enough. So it wasn't about needing to select the best or accept people. It was basically we needed everybody we can get a hold of, because there is a set minimum that you had to have on the committee, and there's a set minimum you have to have in attendance at a committee meeting to have a quorum. And because I was the chair when Ed came around, and we were struggling to get people to come. Out of 300 houses, we were lucky we had 9 or 10 people that wanted to participate, and then they dropped off. So we have a lot more houses, and we still struggle to get people to come to the committee. So I'm hopeful. I'm really going to hope that we have the problem of having to select the best people. That would be lovely. But at the moment, we're usually struggling to get anybody to come to the committee. So I also heard some stuff mentioned before where the residents association, and somebody goes, oh, we have to start a whole new resident association. Please remember that the resident association is everybody who is living or working in this area. The committee is what they're trying to restart. Let's not confuse those two terms because they're not interchangeable. One is part of the other, but the other is not part of the one. So I found that as a previous chair, I found that a bit amusing that somebody thought, oh, we're going to get a whole new resident association. No, we're just getting a new committee. The resident association still continues on to represent. We'll just need some people to assist us to get that representation and get those ideas out to the wider community. So that's the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And Dauncey's got a hand up, Ken.
Sorry, I just want to kind of not play devil's advocate, but to kind of counter Tim's argument that, you know, there wasn't enough people, you know, to arrange a quorum and stuff like that. But surely you want the right people. You don't just want random people just going, oh, I want to have this label of being on the committee. You want the right people for that job. You know, otherwise, what is the point? It then becomes a laughing stock, which is what a lot of people, you know, I know, and one of the reasons why I've not joined, because it is just there's no sense in it sometimes. You're just producing numbers.
It's not the first time I've heard that. You're not the first person to say any of that. So yeah, it's a really important point. Michelle?
I just wanted to say that I agree with everything Dauncey said so far about choosing people for the right reasons. But I just think that a lot of people have got an opinion on this. I just hope they take the opportunity to come forward and help make the changes that need to happen. That's all really.
Absolutely, because one of the things that worries me is, as Tim said, if we come to the EGM and we don't have a quorum of 20 representative households, we can't go forward and form a new committee. And if we don't have 8 people applying, we will carry on having an RA without a committee. And so that does make me nervous. And it sort of reiterates the importance of hearing all these views and taking proper notice of them, because we actually need all those people that would otherwise be afraid to come forwards, you know. And having this recorded and on the website, I'm hoping people will see this and see how important it is, but also how much, you know, they will be welcomed and have a part if they want it, you know. Everyone's had a chance to speak. Shall we wrap it up by just going round and giving anyone who wants it a last word? So I'm just going round as I see it on the screen, not because I want to pick on anyone in any particular order. So I'll start with you, Jane. Any last words?
Well, just thank you very much for organising this, and it's really been helpful to be part of it. And you know, the medium is the message. In a way, this is a model of you know, helpful discussion. So yeah, thanks, and to everyone, you know, who's out the back doing stuff.
That's great. Lynn?
I think just the message is just trying to get as many people that can attend the EGM, that anyone that shows any interest, then to go to the website. There's an email address on there as well. If anyone's got any questions, all of the roles are on the website, but also they can email in. And it's just that anyone from there's a few people monitoring from the working group, that if anything comes through, then those questions can get answered. And really it's to try and get as many people interested, or to try and get them involved as possible. It'd be such a shame to lose what so many people have worked so hard for over the years. to break, you know, to lose the connections with Dorchester and many other people. It'd just be a shame to lose that, because there's a lot of people there that have responded positively, that there's been a lot of issues that have all been dealt with, and, you know, or still in the process of being dealt with, and it would just be a shame to lose that, really. But again, really, it's just trying to get people applying that want to apply, and that are interested in it.
Thank you. Tim.
Sorry, I thought it was at the other end. Yes, I fully understand the need to have the best qualified people, or people who have the widest skill set. I found it difficult as the chair, because you're expected to have no personal interest in any one subject, but to represent every subject that you're given. And sometimes you might feel passionate about it. Well, if you let your passion override your responsibilities, it then detracts from the wider good that you were supposed to be doing for the whole of the Residents Association. So you need the person who has a good background. And I'm hoping that when people do apply, that they understand that when you apply for certain positions, like I was trying to tell chairs before, when you apply to be a chair, or when you want to be the chair loses their right to vote. The chair loses their right to propose. They are only there to basically guide the meeting and guide the way that things are going. Facilitator is a better word than chair, far better word than chair, because you don't put your personal interest in. If you want personal interest, stay on the committee member level. And sometimes that gets lost. So you need somebody who is going to be well versed in the rules of play as far as running the committee. And that's where the association, that's where the knowledge of how that works comes into play. So yes, I would say that if you're going to apply for something, make sure that you fully understand what you're getting into, but then give everything you've got to make it work.
Thank you. Michelle?
I don't really have anything more to add, apart from reiterating that if you think you want to apply, because I'm sure you can make a difference. This is a lovely community.
Thank you. Richard?
Sorry, I was busy typing, and there's just some Facebook posts I've been putting up. I've just put out on the village group the direct link to the Constitution that's on the website, just to make it easy reference.
Oh, thank you.
So I've also covered that in the recording, so hopefully that'll get out as well. I will be in the next couple of days pushing out more threads to hopefully encourage some more people to come forward, to put their nomination in, to be part of the group. I don't think I can say much more than what everyone else has sort of said, really. It is just literally a case of now we are waiting for the greater community up here, for some individuals, preferably, what was it, about 20, to come forward and make it a better, more inclusive group.
Thank you. Sarah?
I don't have anything to say.
Thank you. Kate, I should imagine, I was told earlier she's not speaking, so that's fine. And Dauncey, you have the last word.
Oh, pressure. No, I'd like to say thank you for this evening. It's been interesting coming along and listening to what's going on. Just query, is there going to be furthermore listening events, or is it just like this is the last one now to the EGM?
I can answer that. This is the last one before the EGM. This is the model. If I'm on the next committee, if they'll have me, I would strongly promote this style going forwards. Yeah. That's just my view, and really it's just me, my view. What has been going on in the last couple of months is 17 people working, including ex-chairs of the committee, who we're extremely grateful to, because they, you know, they're our guiding hand, and people, you know, as was suggested, people with expertise that have just come to help and make sure things actually get on the right track. So yeah, it's the next thing is the EGM, and I think it's an important one. Okay, I think if everyone's happy, we can end the meeting. And thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Right, bye.